It's our 34th day on Eric's 1962 Chevy pickup, and don't hold me to it, but I think I'm going to bolt on some sheet metal today. First, I'm going to go ahead and sand down that quarter panel and the hood a little bit, and I'll shoot a little flat black on them. Then I'm going to just tie up everything up underneath the hood and such. So let's see what we get. So we want to make sure that we get as much done on the inside as possible before we put on doors and hoods and fenders. Because once all that stuff's on, then it's become more trouble walking around all that stuff. If you put your glass in, for instance, the temperature just goes up a lot, and then you're sweating your chi-chis off. No, that's all crap. Maybe we'll let that sit. So even though you try to not cut through the sandpaper, you will at some point, little spots here and there. And so what we'll do there is we'll just get the primer sealer. And again, we're doing that because we want this to be one nice even color. We don't want spots of paint, metal, filler, primer. We want it all nice and uniform. So we'll just on the few spots where I peek through the primer, I'll shoot a little primer sealer on there. I'll let it dry up, and I'll just do a light scuff on it, and we'll paint it. Once again, wherever I've hit metal, I'm going to go ahead and get a little acid and fire on there. Our paint's drying, so we'll climb up underneath here and we'll get some tie downs. We don't want our wires all jiggling around willy-nilly and stuff like that. We want to be relatively firm because the jiggling will loosen up the connections. These wires are pretty old and brittle and they can break over time. So we'll get everything secured up in here, double check a bunch of lights and things like that, and make sure everything's copacetic. So I missed this little quick quick connect. It was going to the gas gauge. Again, these things generally aren't that good. They they just harbor rust and moisture, and they corrode out, and they just, number one probably electrical problem I find when I'm doing stuff is these here. So make sure you wrap, solder, and then shrink wrap your connections. And things like this, you can't get away from using these. Well, you can solder these on too, but when you put these on, you want to make sure that you crimp them down good, and you want to make sure that you get your shrink wrap on those also, so that we keep moisture out of bay. more questions about what kind of paint I'm using on this flat black and on the primers and stuff like that. I've been using the Rust-Oleum, and then on the color for the dash and stuff like that, I use the Duplicate color. And I'm not using them really for any specific reason other than I get a discount at AutoZone, so that's where I buy it, and there's plenty of them around. They seem to be working good, with the exception probably of the spray-on primers, which really isn't the fault of Rust-Oleum. Really, pretty much every spray-on primer that I've done out of the can takes a long time to dry, comes up the sandpaper, and you really have to watch. The reason being is that that primer does not have a catalyst in it, doesn't have a hardener in it. So it has to air dry, and it just takes longer and such. So you can get by with this stuff on small jobs, but when you're going to go with a larger job, a spray gun and a catalyst activated primer is going to be your best way to go. So I'll show you how to do that on some other cars. Maybe take a look at Gary's 1956 Chevy or Ford pickup. That one there, that was a high-end gloss job, and you can see how I do things when I'm doing a upper echelon type vehicle. But nice, decent daily driver, this is just fine. So just do a fog coat at first, and I'll let this dry up. The reason that we do it this way is, let's say for instance I just shot me a coat right on there, and for some reason it didn't want to stick, it was too cold, it was dirty, what have you, then the whole sheet would just kind of peel off. But by doing it this way, I've got some of the paint sticking now, and then getting tacky, and then another coat on top of that, so it'll give us just a better adhesion, and it's less likely to have any problems in the future. So I'm just going to shoot one coat on this because I'm going to be coming back with the rest of the black Imron that we shot on our frame, and put at least one coat on this and blend it all in. Not too bad for a spray can, huh? So another trick to keeping your tiger striking to a minimum is that on when you finish up your coat, then you just kind of come back 12 inches or so and just do a light blending over the whole 9 yards, and then generally it'll help hide any tiger striking that you have in there. Not that I really got to worry about on this, because this is going to be getting another coat of the black Emerald too. So now, I don't know, man, I think I'm going to bolt something on. Let's see. If you remember back when we installed the radiator, we just put water in there, and the reason that we did that was so that we could get it running, we can get all the bugs worked out and everything like that with no fenders in our interference, and it'll help clean out the engine cavities and everything too. So now I'll drain out that water so that I'll be able to move the core support around and be able to get those inner fenders on. And I'm going to go ahead and take a bolt and clean up all the bolt holes so that everything's going to go together nice. So what I'm using is just regular bolt. It's nice to have the ones that have a point like that, and I just cut me some slots in there that you can see, and that just makes you a cheap little chaser. Also, we did a little bit of work right here. It looks pretty good, but I think I'm going to go ahead and clean it off, shoot a little primer on it, and sand it down for tomorrow. So the primer's going to take too long to dry and stuff like that, so I'm just going to put a little bit of filler on there to hedge my bet. this tape off so that the paint doesn't dry it on and make it really tough to come off. We want to wait long enough for the paint to be dry, but not so long that it gets extremely hard. So if you get some tape won't come off, you just get a little bit of wax and grease remover. That's basically what it's for, is to get off all the sticky stuff. I can't use acetone to take off paint, but this is old and I don't want this on here, so it would last to take that off. You can see the inside of the hood there. I got that closer. Not perfect, but at least closer. Have bolts set aside so that when you get it up here, everything's all nice and ready to go. And I'm just putting pretty much all of these on 4, 5, 6 turns. I want to still have everything loose, so when I'm putting it together, it's a lot more cooperative. So Brothers is supposed to have a radiator in tomorrow, so I don't want to go ahead and put all this stuff on yet, because it'll be easier to do if it's together and I can just put the whole unit up as one instead of having to take the fan off and the whole fan shroud deal. So hopefully we'll have that tomorrow. We'll put that on. While we're waiting, we're going to go ahead and put on the doors. So we want to install our door hinges on the door first, and then we put the door with hinges on it up against the cab, and it bolts up a lot easier that way. Alright, so just in case you forget, it's good to label these. If you forget to label them, you always remember that the pin goes at the top and the bottom of the shaft goes at the bottom. So if this was like this, then this pin would just fall out because the cap's on the bottom. So the cap goes on top. Also, the bolts you're going to be using, there's 2 different ones. There's this style right here that has the lock washer and washer kind of all in one shot, a whiz nut or a flange nut, and then there's this one here that looks basically just like it, except for it's got the large washer on it. Now the large washer go on the hinge. You'll see the large washer always goes into the single hole on either side here, and then the 2 holes are going to go with the other one. So when we bolt it up, we're putting these here on pretty loose, and we're putting this one here up a little bit snug. And this is when it's snugged up, that's how we're adjusting our doors. After we get our doors adjusted all the way, then we go ahead and we tighten down these, and that locks it down. Now these hinges right here, they slot in and out. When I put these on, I normally like to have them all the way out because it's easier to tap the door in than it is to pull it out. In our lineup, our doors are the first and the most important thing. This shit that it fits into, it's not going to be able to move. I can move my fenders, I can move my hood, I can move my cows here, but I can't move the cab. So first I have to get the door aligned with the cab, and I can get everything else aligned to the door. So normally I'll take the door and I'll go up as high as I can because it's easier to bump it down than it is to bump it up. And I'll also come all the way back because it's easier to push forward. You can see it's starting to look pretty good. But this side here is just a little bit too close. And you can see this is just a little bit more of a gap here. And looks like the bottom could tuck in just a little bit more. So up and down is with these here, and then in and out is using these here. So while I've been lining this up, this piece right here has been loose. So what I'll do is I'll just tighten it up a little bit. I'll kind of try to line it up with a slot that is right there. And then we should be done. Okay, so we can see our line right here is nice and even. Line right here is looking pretty good. Might be just a tad tight. Maybe I'll mess with that later. Right here there's a little bit more of a gap, but you got to remember that the custom cab thing goes right here. Now right here, this isn't lining up even as I would like. So what I'll do is, in order to bring this out, I have to take this down here and go in. Okay, so now we can see our lines a little more even here. And I usually like to have this just a little bit tighter up in here. I like to have it just tilted a little bit more like this, so to speak. And the reason is that after we put our glass in it, then it'll kind of, you know, the weight will bring us back down some. So our door's looking good. I'll show you how to install all of this stuff later. But once you have the door on, one of the most important things you can do is put your door catch on, because if it opens up too far, it'll catch on the hinge right there and it'll dent it all up for you. So we're going to put that on right now for sure. So I'll get a little blop of grease there, and I'll put it on the inside here. And then a little on here. Okay, so we're all done for the day. We got stuff painted, a little bit of sheet metal hung up. Hopefully brothers will have our radiator and we'll be able to install that tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to have to show you how to do it the hard way. And we'll finish painting this down here, and we'll get our doors on and all kinds of sheet metal. And well, you better stay tuned and see, man. We'll see y'all tomorrow.